Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Anchor Group podcast. This is episode 8. And today we're going to dive into My Account, which is a feature of the SuiteCommerce e-commerce platform that's built on NetSuite. We're going to have Peter, who's one of our solution architects here at Anchor Group, really walk us through My Account. This conversation is going to be pretty high level, but by the end of this podcast, you're going to understand what My Account is, how it fits into the NetSuite ecosystem, and who My Account might really be helpful for. Well, Peter, thank you for joining us today on the Anchor Group podcast. I know this is your first time on this podcast. Have you been on any other podcast before?
No, I haven't. I have not. I've been able to watch my wife do a couple author podcasts, but no, I've never been on one.
There you go. Welcome to the podcast world. Get your voice out on the airwaves then, right?
Yeah.
So, Peter, you work at Anchor Group, and I know you and I work together in various sales roles and tasks and that sort of thing. But go ahead and share with us a little bit about how you got started at Anchor Group and specifically kind of what your role is here at Anchor Group.
Yeah, Anchor Group's a bit of a unique company even for the ERP space, and so it was a lot of word of mouth early. So I got into Anchor Group actually mostly through my brother, who was involved with some of the founding members and was good friends, and so he roped a couple of us up in the area because of our unique in-office culture. Location is really important, obviously, to working at Anchor Group. So I originally got interested mainly because of that, because of the things Anchor Group was doing that was just kind of different from other companies. And so I came from a little bit more of a technical science background, but got into the delivery team early on, kind of as a foundational piece to the delivery team for SuiteCommerce and NetSuite support in really early days. I did that for a couple of years, and then starting about 2 years ago, I transitioned over to the sales team to help with technical sales.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing. And yeah, Anchor Group, we do have that in-office culture, and it's nice. You know, it's nice all being able, I know you and I work in the same office, but it's nice to be able to have that in-office culture where so many people are working remote these days in the world of e-commerce and software and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm sure people do remember a little of how it used to be, but I remember being in the middle of when we all transitioned, right, to remote for a while there, and the inefficiencies that we all kind of dealt with and now deal with today. And it's a real refresher to work in an office where I can go and talk to someone real quick without having to send a message or an email or something. So
That's right.
yeah, we try to take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's nice. You're right. There are definitely some efficiencies gained there. Well, today what we are going to be talking about, and one of the reasons we're so happy you can join us today is because we want to talk about SuiteCommerce MyAccount, right? And so My Account is a feature that we work a lot on here at Anchor Group, but whenever prospects or people who are looking for solutions kind of come to us seeking a solution for the problems they're in, a lot of them don't initially really know what My Account is or what it does and how it can be helpful for them. So, Peter, I'm hoping you can just help give everybody listening to this today some clarity and some guidance on what My Account is and how it might help their business. So to start things off, Peter, could you just at a high level explain what My Account is and kind of how it fits into the NetSuite ecosystem?
Right. Great question. So we've definitely seen that My Account has been growing a lot in popularity recently, but it's not exactly a new product, and it's been out there for a while. So what My Account is a customer portal, a customizable customer portal specifically designed for NetSuite. It's built directly on top of the NetSuite ERP and provides seamless unified system that connects all of the inventory data, all of the customer data to your customers so that they can view orders, order history, update orders, quotes, any of that kind of B2B focused customer portal needs basically just gives your customers access to the powerful ERP that NetSuite is.
Yeah, and that's a good point. That one of the real strengths is that it sits right on top of the ERP. And so over on the e-commerce side of things, when we build out websites on like a BigCommerce or a Shopify or things like that, you always need an integration between the two, right? In order to get a customer portal feel. With my account, it's not that way. You don't need an integration. It sits right there.
Yeah, exactly. Unlike virtually all e-commerce platforms, even if they have a B2B option, the SuiteCommerce MyAccount eliminates the need for third-party integrations and back-end syncing and anything like that. We often tell customers interested in SuiteCommerce MyAccount, an important thing to think about is there is no such thing as SuiteCommerce MyAccount data. It just is NetSuite data. So you don't have to be syncing customers or sales orders or anything like that. And vice versa, anything created in MyAccount is created in NetSuite.
Yeah. So essentially, it's just the MyAccount is just a different way of showing off that data, right? It's essentially a different interface that we can use to interact with the data within NetSuite. Now, just to make this clear for anybody listening who might be a little confused about how MyAccount fits in is, so you have NetSuite, right? And you can also then have SuiteCommerce, which is like an e-commerce extension that is built on top of your NetSuite account. And then within the SuiteCommerce ecosystem, right, those features that are included in SuiteCommerce, there's this MyAccount feature. Now, Peter, my question for you is, first off, did I explain that right? Second off, do you need SuiteCommerce in order to have MyAccount, or could you technically just have MyAccount connected to your NetSuite environment?
Yeah, great question. And there is some confusion around that even within the industry. So there are three versions of the module that NetSuite sells: SuiteCommerce, SuiteCommerce Advanced, and SuiteCommerce MyAccount. SuiteCommerce is the full e-commerce solution, and within SuiteCommerce, SuiteCommerce MyAccount exists. So while SuiteCommerce MyAccount is often seen as kind of the third option, really it's the first. It's the customer portal. It's the login, see your data. It's the main B2B tool that SuiteCommerce uses. So if you purchase SuiteCommerce, you get all your e-commerce needs met: shopping pages, carts, checkout, integrated payments, and then you get SuiteCommerce MyAccount also. And the same goes for SuiteCommerce Advanced, which is just kind of an advanced version of the SuiteCommerce module. So really the distinction is the shopping. SuiteCommerce is an e-commerce, whereas SuiteCommerce MyAccount is just the portal. But you don't need to purchase SuiteCommerce to get SuiteCommerce MyAccount. You get it if you purchase it, but you can also purchase it separately for people who don't need that shopping experience but are just looking for a customer portal.
And Peter, has it always been that way? Have you always been able to just get MyAccount, a license for MyAccount, or is that a new kind of development in the product offering from NetSuite?
It's somewhat new. I would say the bigger thing that's new is the feature set that MyAccount has. Originally, SuiteCommerce Advanced was so far ahead of the other platforms in terms of features and ability to customize that basically, unless you needed out-of-the-box setup for SuiteCommerce or SuiteCommerce MyAccount, you had to get Advanced. That's changed a little bit today, both in the feature set that NetSuite provides. SuiteCommerce is now basically caught up to SuiteCommerce Advanced, and SuiteCommerce MyAccount is the same. They roll out features twice a year, and it stays up to date. The other thing is the ecosystem for development has really matured. Nothing's technically changed on that front. It's just that companies like Anchor Group and other support companies have found really efficient ways to build on top of the base code. And so what you're seeing now is a lot more companies willing to engage in customizing SuiteCommerce and SuiteCommerce MyAccount, whereas in the past, if you talk to customization, you were immediately going to get filtered into the SuiteCommerce Advanced world.
So so let's just make sure that's clear, right? So are you saying if you have SuiteCommerce, right, standard, or SuiteCommerce Advanced, the My Account feature is exactly the same on either of those. So you get the same features set
Yeah.
right out of the bat, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Both of those include it as a module. You can think of SuiteCommerce or SuiteCommerce Advanced as basically three websites built together. One is the customer portal, one is the shopping experience, and then one is the checkout experience. Often cases in other software systems, they're actually even just seen as three separate softwares. In SuiteCommerce and SuiteCommerce Advanced case, they bundle them all together. So SuiteCommerce MyAccount is unique in that you can pull it out and purchase just that if that's all you need.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Why would a company consider just purchasing My Account and not having SuiteCommerce? Because if SuiteCommerce is like truly the e-commerce front end experience where you can like add things to a shopping cart and stuff like that, do you lose all that functionality if you just get the My Account portion?
Right. There's a bit of nuance here because of Anchor Group's capabilities. So I would say no, you don't. There are definitely advantages to getting SuiteCommerce and times when we would recommend companies do that. In fact, most e-commerce solutions are going to need SuiteCommerce or SuiteCommerce Advanced. But in the case of My Account, SuiteCommerce MyAccount, you are not limited to just the portal. You can create orders. You can. There's a fully integrated cart and checkout. But the main purpose for SuiteCommerce MyAccount is going to be businesses that are looking to centralize data access for their customers. They want to stop fielding calls from their customers saying, "Where's my order? What's the inventory look like? Can you update me on my quote?" This just gives them the ability to see your ERP and what the status of stuff is. They can look at their orders and see the shipping. They can see where the quote is and maybe what any responses are. There's also a messaging platform so that they can be in contact with your support team and send messages back and forth. They can initiate returns. They can pay for invoices. Any of those sort of when you're growing as a company, your sales team starts to get overwhelmed usually by the amount of hand-holding that they need to do with their already won customers. And what we see is SuiteCommerce MyAccount is sort of that first step towards decoupling the sales team from customers that are won, at least when it comes to regular maintenance. You want your sales team to be generating new leads and bringing in new customers, and B, in their extra time, you want them to be growing the relationships that they have. So it doesn't mean that your customers now get abandoned and told to just go look at the website, but it takes so much off the plate of sales managers and sales reps that allows them to actually do the soft skills that make sales really land without them having to get so caught up in, okay, let me look up your order and see what its shipping is and help you pay your bill. So it really streamlines the sales team, and that's the main, I think, way to think about SuiteCommerce MyAccount is it's a tool for your sales team to become more efficient.
Yeah, I like the way you put that. And what it truly does, it sounds like, is it gives your customers the ability to be more independent, right? To kind of be more independent, managing those orders, managing invoices, and all of that stuff. And so,
yeah, and I don't know how relevant this is to everybody, but the reality too of the younger generation is they like that. They don't. A lot of the younger generations aren't interested in getting a phone call or having to make a phone call to update an order. They just want to check online, see what's the status of my order, what's the status of my quote.
Yeah. Now, Peter, I do have a little story about that. So I'm not sure if you would consider me of the younger generation or not, but I recently had a reverse osmosis water filtration system in my home. And with that, have you heard of those before? You know what those are?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to replace the filters like every 6 months, or there's a couple different kinds of filters. Well, the company that owned the water filtration system in my house that manufactured it, they didn't have an online ordering system. You couldn't go to their website and order it. They didn't have some portal I could log into. You couldn't even get them on Amazon. They weren't in any brick and mortar locations. I had to call a guy to place an order through him. And of course, when I needed the filters, he was on vacation for a week. And I needed the filters tomorrow, right? And so I'll be honest, I went out and bought a different filtration system, exchanged it out, and those filters are carried at the Home Depots of the world, so I can now use those. But the point being is, I think you're right. There are some customers who maybe don't want to hop on the phone in order to place a new order.
Right. Well, and to your point, there's a bigger point there too about e-commerce in general, and the fact that we're really seeing across a lot of different industries and politics and basically everything, this push towards subsidiarity. There's a bigger and bigger push towards specialization and subsidiarity. The years of everything being about giant corporations coming in and kind of taking over everything are slowly becoming part of the past. The mom and pop shops that really are good at this one very niche thing, because communication is so cheap, they're finding ways to get their voice out there, and having an e-commerce platform, or as a first step, having a customer portal is a huge step up, because to your point, I can always go on Home Depot's website. They've got a website and I can just order it. Yeah. And if you're trying to compete, maybe not with Home Depot as an industry, but with products that Home Depot sells, you've got to be able to provide your customers those tools.
Yeah. And that whole idea of, the whole idea of convenience, even if we want to take, your example one step further, right? The convenience of being able to not only order online, but then see what the options are for shipping or pickup, and by doing that over the phone, if that's still the only way, doing over the phone, over email, like that stuff just isn't as transparent. And so I like how, as we've been talking, how my account can give a business some features that, as we're saying, maybe cater to some potential customers, or some customers that haven't been needs that haven't been necessarily addressed in the past, right? If people are still taking orders primarily over the phone or through email, so that buyer portal can be incredibly critical. Now, let's take that example of a water filtration system. Pretend there was a portal I could have logged in to buy more. Now, connect the dots for us here, Peter. If I only had my account, if I only had NetSuite My Account, could I still have products like the filters for the filtration system listed in that My Account section? So if I'm a buyer or customer and I want to go on there and I need to buy a pallet of filters for my mom and pop shop, hardware store, could I go in there and our product's going to be able to be listed in there for me to purchase?
Yeah, great question. And this is, again, to get back to the kind of nuance of what a team like ours is able to do with My Account. It complicates the answer. But to put simply, any order that exists can be reordered. So native functionality within My Account would allow you, once you've made a purchase, to make that purchase again, or even make adjustments to that purchase. So there's a reorder tab that shows you all of the items that you've ordered previously. And then there's also a button on each sales order that allows you to reorder the sales order. It puts products in the cart, which then allow you to change quantities. So you can mix and match. You can remove items. You can increase the quantity. You can do anything that you can do normally with a cart. What isn't there natively are what the industry refers to as product list pages or product pages. However, depending on your SKU count and the number of products you support, we've built those out on SuiteCommerce MyAccount.
Yeah, so Peter, I want to get into that because here at Anchor Group, internally, I know we have a saying, the more complex, the better. Like here at Anchor Group, we genuinely like problems that are very challenging to solve. So the more complex the problem, the better for us. That's kind of one of our strengths here. So talk to us about some of the customizations that you and the rest of the team here at Anchor Group have had to solve for or build out within the My Account feature.
Yeah, great. There's really 4 big ones that we see in My Account. So the first one is, like I said, around products. So if you have a small SKU count and you don't need all of the flash and excitement of a SuiteCommerce with categories of items and long lists of filters, if you're really only hosting 4 or 5 services, we see that a lot with especially services or subscriptions. We can build a single landing page where you show each of the items and allow them to be added to the cart. So that's a very popular feature, especially because the price point of SuiteCommerce MyAccount is about half, sometimes less than SuiteCommerce. So it's very cost effective. The second most popular extension that we see is a contact management and customer, well, I guess this would be 2, but they're somewhat related, a customer swap and a contact management. So for the customer swap, what that feature allows you to do is actually switch from customer to customer. We see 2 main use cases: sales reps and clients who have complicated customer hierarchies, where they maybe have an administrative customer that has location customer records underneath it or something like that. And the administrative customer might want to see the location customer data, maybe even pay for stuff or generate invoices. So we have an extension that allows a single user to log into my account and switch from customer to customer while maintaining all of the great password and network security that SuiteCommerce or that NetSuite employs. The other, like I mentioned, is the contact management, and that just lets you update your customer record in order to add, remove, and edit contacts that have access. So if you're, that one's very driven by a customer's unique needs. Again, if your sales team is constantly getting calls where they say, we've got a new guy starting on Monday, can you get him access? Somebody left, can you take his access away? This just gives that ability back to the customer, especially when you have complicated onboarding processes. You want to make it, you have a high bar for becoming a customer, but once you're a customer, you want to give some of the power back to them to be able to maintain and manage that. The last one is a really simple calculation on whether on ROI, which is why I think it's so popular, and it's simply a credit card fee extension that adds credit cards or late fees automatically onto invoices, and it comes with plenty of customizations to allow you to stay within the individual state-by-state legal qualifications, as well as different country qualifications that are out there. So those are the 4 big ones we see in my account.
Interesting. Yeah, those are great. Now, Peter, if somebody says, I need customizations or extensions that don't exist, how expensive is it to build out customizations, or how much time does it take to build out customizations within my account?
Great question. What I would say before this is we as a company customize my account, SuiteCommerce, NetSuite. It's what we do, and we like doing it. However, our instinct is always going to be to find you a native solution. It'll save you money. It will make your environment easier to understand into the future. So if you come to us with a tricky problem that you think isn't solvable, we're not going to immediately throw in the developers and say, all right, let's write some code, let's customize. We're going to try and put our heads together with you and figure out what are we actually trying to solve and why, which I think is a huge benefit that Anchor Group offers, kind of at the detriment of our own bottom line, because we often talk customers out of customizations, but it makes for a better relationship. And at the end of the day, that's what we're interested. If it was just about customizing things and then disappearing, maybe we'd go with a different model. But it just reflects a little bit of our Midwest values, that we do want to provide expertise about these platforms, and that doesn't mean always development. But anyway, to the question, it depends on the ask and the system. All of our project managers have the ability, though, to scope and quote live in most cases on the call. Sometimes they might want to meet with either someone in leadership or someone in the development team to double check. But some of these customizations, like the credit card fee, for example, they come in about $4,000 to $6,000, which you end up being able to pay off really fast if you're collecting credit card fees. So it pays for itself actually really quickly. While Anchor Group's rate tends to be high for the industry, we make up for it in time, which is interesting, because that might be a reason actually to charge even more, because we can be so fast. But we end up being able to come, into a competitive budget range because we are so quick with our customization. So what we're offering is a little bit better customizations and faster for a similar price point as some of our competitors that are going to take 3-4 times as long, and maybe not be able to produce the same level of content. And then when it comes to customizations that aren't pre-made, I think that's a really, really important point. Because we do this as our main, the main thing that Anchor Group does, and because we've been doing it for so long now, we have a huge repository of code. And it is actually somewhat rare that a customer comes to us and says, hey, we're trying to solve this problem. And I have to say, I've never seen that. Let's talk about it. Almost every case I'm able to say, yeah, great, we've solved that. Here's an example. Let's show you that this customer that's using it, or that customer. There might be some small nuances, but almost all the code's already written, which again helps us offset our higher hourly rate with onshore developers. But when it comes to customizations, we're like I said, we kind of go through that path. Can we do it natively? Can we reuse code? And if we get to know, then great, let's dive in and make something just for you. And while we are a time and materials company for the most part, we try to be really upfront with our estimates. We give so much insight into even daily and hourly task logs, so that unlike a lot of consulting companies, you get to the end of the month and you get a bill for consulting, and then there's just a big number. Our invoices show time entries, and our developers are required to enter time entries multiple times a day. So we really want to demystify what's being worked on and why, so that the customer can have confidence that what they're paying for is worth it.
Great explanation of that. Thank you. So as we start to wrap things up, I want to try to put into words kind of a recap of what we've talked about today, and kind of who or what type of companies SuiteCommerce and MyAccount, or SuiteCommerce Advanced and MyAccount, what type of companies might be interested in that, versus what type of companies might only need MyAccount without the SuiteCommerce or the SuiteCommerce Advanced component to it. And Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but to me what it sounds like, if I run a company that is B2B with a B2C component, or at least want my products orderable to anybody who logs onto my website, then probably having SuiteCommerce or SuiteCommerce Advanced, including MyAccount, which would just be like the customer portal everybody logs into, it sounds like that might be a better fit if I want my products visible to anybody who logs onto my website. And to me, it also sounds like if I do not want my products orderable, visible to everybody who logs on to my websites. Maybe I'm just a manufacturer and I just want to sell to my distributors. Then maybe the My Account route without SuiteCommerce or without SuiteCommerce Advanced might be the better route to go. Do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's almost exactly what I would say. I think maybe the clearest distinction between the two would be SKU count. How many products do you have, and then also the complexity of the products that you're selling. If you need filters, if you need multiple categories of items, which really is driven more by the SKU count than anything, but could be the complexity of the items. SuiteCommerce and SuiteCommerce Advanced are going to give you those features. But if you're just looking for a customer portal where they can check up on their orders, they can make payments, especially for service companies where you're dealing with subscriptions or you're dealing with some sort of recurring revenue that's coming in. SuiteCommerce MyAccount.
Peter, give us an example of a service company. Like, what service company have you worked in the past that would be like, from an industry perspective, that would be a direct example of that?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the name, but it was a mobile company,
Okay.
a small mobile company, and they provided cell phone plans to underprivileged individuals through a government program. And what they were looking for was a way to monitor those payments, give people the opportunity to make payments, as well as unifying a lot of data. Because actually, for this customer's case, the user of the phone wasn't even the one that was paying for it. They usually go out onto these kind of contracts with nonprofit organizations or small town governments that will purchase a plan for 50 phones and then be able to pass them and distribute them out as they need.
Right.
And they needed a single location in order to monitor their subscriptions, make changes to the subscriptions. And SuiteCommerce MyAccount was just a slam dunk for them. It was so easy to set up and gave their customers the ability to get insight much faster than they could over the phone. Well, for this company that's basically on a shoestring budget, right? You can imagine providing phones to the underprivileged is not the way to get rich. It allows them to keep their sales team streamlined and keep personnel light while still providing a good, basically completely fleshed out experience for their customers.
Mm-hmm. Good example.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good use case, and it portrays the capabilities of what My Account can do if a company only wants to have My Account.
Right.
Well, Peter, thank you for hopping on the podcast today. It was awesome having you on. I foresee a future where maybe you'll be on a couple more talking about a lot more of your expertise. I know you extend further than just My Account, but thank you for hopping on today.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. It was a pleasure.